Well, there's a whole lot that we know now about the young man that allegedly shot and killed Charlie Kirk. In this episode, we're going to talk about that, and especially about what we know now that we did not know before. We're also going to share some more of Candace Owen's rants and a lot of other stuff on today's program. Glad to have you on board. Welcome to what some people are calling the fastest minutes in podcasting.
The views and opinions expressed in this presentation are solely those of the individuals participating and do not represent those of city, county, state, or federal law enforcement agencies, nor sponsors and platforms of this presentation. The Charlie Crimebuster name and all forms and abbreviations are property of its owner, and its use does not imply endorsement of or opposition to any specific organization, product, or service. All individuals described or mentioned in the presentation should be considered innocent unless or until found guilty in a court of law. This presentation contains adult subject matter. Listener and viewer discretion is advised.
Well, hello, welcome to another episode of Charlie Crimebuster. Today we're going to be talking about, the alleged shooter of Charlie Kirk. We've been down the rabbit holes that Candace Owens and other influencers have put out there of all kinds of conspiracy programs and conspiracy theories and ideas and this sort of thing. But now we're going to be talking about the real evidence. We're going to talk about the real case. We're going to talk about the real alleged shooter of Charlie Kirk. But before we do that, welcome aboard. If you're a first-time listener or a seasoned listener, we always encourage you to reach out with a shout-out. Hey, you can reach me, charliecrimebuster@gmail.com. And by the way, right now, while we're thinking about it, how about taking a moment, hit that subscribe button, and hit that like button. That helps us get the podcast out to far more people. Thank you for doing that. If you have questions about the podcast, or maybe you have suggestions on some other topics that you might want us to cover, well, we'd love to hear from you. Reach out with shout out, charliecrimebuster@gmail.com. Also, we encourage you to reach on over there to peacemakernetwork.com. That's our sponsor. Read all about those brave men and women who run toward danger instead of away from danger. That's peacemakernetwork.com. Hey, I was talking to our producer, James Buckland, this week, and we were talking about some of the plans for 2026, including a Charlie Crimebuster radio station. So we're going to tell you all about that in a little while when the time gets right to introduce that to you. But you're going to be excited. I promise you, going to be a lot of great material there, especially for crime junkies. We'll tell you all about that on down the line of 2026.
The following podcast is brought to you by peacemakernetwork.com. peacemakernetwork.com. Audio is provided by pixabay.com. That's pixabay.com.
Well, let's get right into it. It is Tyler James Robinson, 22 years of age. He has been identified and arrested as a suspect in the fatal shooting of Charlie Kirk during an event at Utah Valley University. That was back last year, September the 10th. Now, he was taken into custody in Washington County, Utah, on September the 12th, and he's been there in the slammer ever since that time. There are charges against him. In fact, he's been formally charged by Utah authorities with multiple counts, such as aggravated murder, felony discharge of a firearm, obstruction of justice, witness tampering, violence in the presence of a child, and this is what's solemn about all this, the authorities have stated they intend to seek the death penalty in this case. Now, there is alleged motive and behavior about it. Prosecutors are alleging that Tyler, he put his focus on Kirk because of Kirk's political expressions and views. Court filings and reporting are all indicating that Robinson may have planned this attack in advance. He left messages and notes suggesting an intent to quote-unquote take out Charlie Kirk. And some of that ammo that he used, there were phrases engraved upon it. And those investigators say these phrases reflect online and internet subcultural influences. Now, this young man had a whole lot of potential. In fact, when you read about him, you find out that he scored in the top percentile of his college entrance exam. He even earned himself a 4-year scholarship to Utah State University. And his mom, as most moms, she posted a video on Facebook in which she talked about her firstborn son, who, by the way, is the oldest of three. And she even read out loud that school's letter offering him the grant. She went on to say, quote, "He's so excited to start his journey, and it's going to be amazing for him." That's what Mom wrote in another post. Well, amazing for him? That was an understatement, because just 4 years later, authorities are now saying that Robinson fired a rifle shot on Tuesday from the top of a building at the university campus, killing conservative influencer Charlie Kirk. Now, as we said before, they are beginning to say now that Robinson began planning this attack. That means premeditated murder, by the way. And he said he planned it about a week before Kirk's scheduled appearance there at Utah Valley University. In messages to his roommate, he said that he had begun thinking about the attack, quote, unquote, a bit over a week beforehand. And according to court filings, Robinson was living at home in southern Utah, and he had routine social contacts with friends and family in the days before the incident. One relative said Robinson had even talked about that Kirk was coming to UVU and had expressed some negative opinions about him prior to the day of a shooting. Now, Tyler is the son of a social worker and a business owner. And I got to say something here because I think it's very important. Early reports actually reported that his father was a part of a sheriff's office there in the state. That is untrue. That is not. Maybe there was somebody else with the same name that was a part of the sheriff's office, but it wasn't Tyler's dad. He's actually the son of a social worker and a business owner. He was raised in Washington, Utah. He has, as we said before, 2 younger brothers. Now, his family are all members of the Church of the Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints. And Robinson's grandmother said, well, most of the family are Republicans. And she went on to say, well, she said that she did not know, quote, unquote, a single Democrat. Now, childhood photographs will show that Robinson and the family, they were on lots of trips, and you can see that they would go out and shoot weapons and see weapons display. So Candace Owen saying that this guy was a fisherman, not a hunter, well, that's not quite true as most other stuff you're hearing from her in these days. Now, in 2008, Robinson began attending Riverside Elementary School. He graduated from a school called Pineview High in May 2021. And he even earned college credits there while he was in school from 2019 to 2021. On May the 31st, we have another view of Robinson when 2 family members and he appeared in a police body camera video where he was being questioned by law enforcement after a traffic collision at an intersection. These are just glimpses we've got of his life. Now, at the time of his arrest, he was living in St. George, Utah. This is 240 miles southwest of the Utah Valley University where the shooting took place. So he drove some miles to make this happen. He was in his 3rd year of an electoral apprenticeship there at Dixie Technical College. Now, he had at one time been a part of Utah State University, another university, not the one where the shooting took place, but he dropped out of that after 1 semester. So here's where we know now about what happened on that day that we did not know before. Surveillance footage reviewed from investigators, it will show Robinson arriving there at Utah Valley University early on the morning of September the 10th. And I think that time was around 8:29, the local time there, and he was driving a gray Dodge Challenger. Now, after arriving, officials are saying that he appeared on campus in lighter colored clothing. But then he later changed into dark clothes before making his way toward a location there near the crowd. Prosecutors are also alleging that he had hidden now a high-powered rifle that he would use in the shooting. And they can tell this from the way he walked early on, suggesting that he was perhaps concealing a rifle on his person as he walked. Now, according to the probable cause affidavit, Robison moved around the campus before the crowd gathered before his event. Looks like at this point he was scouting out, trying to find where to position himself near the buildings. On the morning of the shooting, Robison sent a text to his roommate instructing them, quote unquote, to look under the keyboard. And there was a note that was found, and that note stated that Tyler planned to, quote unquote, take out Charlie Kirk. Now, those texts continued afterward, where Robison acknowledged that he had indeed committed the act. Now, the investigators also found a chat message on this platform called Discord. And in that one, Robison alleged to have discussed returning to retrieve the rifle that he had used before the shooting, as well as mentioning the engraved bullets and watching areas where a weapon was left. Now, in a moment, we're going to give you an updated timeline on the actual shooting and talk about some of the things that take place afterwards and some of the things that are going to be taking place in the future regarding the prosecution of Tyler Robison. But before we do that, we want to take just a moment to get our breath and share with you what we call Charlie Crimebuster's Crazy Crook of the Week. Now, we've been telling you about a new law that was passed here in Florida that gives us a lot more crazy crooks to pick from. Here's another one. You see, on July the 1st, 2025, there was a law that went in effect that allowed cops now to take new action against what the state now is defining as quote-unquote super speeders. These are individuals that are caught traveling at least 50 miles an hour over the legal limit or the triple-digit speeds, over 100. This elevates what used to be a civil speeding ticket, and now it becomes not just a civil speeding ticket, but actually becomes a criminal offense. So to you folks that are planning on coming here to Florida to vacation, to your vacation time, I want to encourage you, watch your speedometer, because my friend, you might come down thinking you're going on a vacation, and your vacation might end up being in the county jail. Now, this tougher approach, it is producing results, but it's also giving police officers across our state an opportunity just to shake their head and say, boy, you can't make this up. Much like the same case that just happened on Interstate 4 in Seminole County back in July after this law was passed. This person was clocked doing 120 miles per hour in a 65 mile per hour zone. Overnight, near Lake Mary, Florida, the trooper down here clocked a Honda Civic going 116 mile per hour in a 65 mile per hour zone on Interstate 4, I-4, one of the deadliest interstates in the country, by the way. You can see why we got drivers like this. And the driver was a 25-year-old male, not on vacation, but he was actually from Longwood. And he was arrested under Florida's super speeder law, and he was headed straight to jail. Now, according to a police report that was obtained by Road and Track, the driver was behind the wheel of a Honda Civic. And here's where it gets crazy. When he was questioned by the trooper there who pulled him over in a clearly marked patrol car whatsoever, here was what the driver said. He said, quote, "The driver stated that he thought I was racing him." That's right. He thought the trooper was racing him. That's what the trooper said that day. Well, evidently, the driver did admit that he was going 90 mile per hour, which is 25 mile per hour with the speed limit. But Trooper Hernandez says, the Civic was really traveling 30 miles an hour faster. So he did indeed reach that threshold. So my friend, this crazy driver who was driving at a ridiculous high rate of speed, dangerously driving on Interstate 4, and used the excuse, quote unquote, that he thought the state trooper was just wanting to race with him as why he was going so fast, is indeed Charlie Crimebuster's Crazy Crook of the Week. All right, now back to our main focus. On 8:29 a.m., again, Tyler Robinson was seen there at Utah Valley University in that gray Dodge Challenger. On 11:50 a.m., they said he's now seen on campus with dark clothing with a U.S. flag on it and moving through the area where the event would occur. At 12:10 to 12:23 p.m. local time, Charlie Kirk is speaking at an outdoor Turning Point USA event entitled the American Comeback Tour. This was at the Utah Valley University there in Utah, Orem, Utah. And the crowd was about 3,000 people. At 12:23, one single shot is allegedly fired from the roof of a nearby building, and it struck Charlie Kirk in the neck. He collapsed, immediately attended to by security, scooped up and taken to a regional hospital. And then, my friend, immediately after the scene, well, according to the probable cause affidavit, after allegedly shooting Kirk, Robinson hid the rifle he used, wrapping it in a towel, placed it in a wooded area off campus, discarded the clothing he wore during the shooting in an attempt to evade detection, sent a message to his roommate, telling him again to look under that keyboard where they found his own handwriting, said, "I had the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk and I'm going to take it." And those texts, by the way, continued after the shooting, which showed him telling the roommate he was kind of stuck in the area because there was police activity, and he was basically trying to reassure them. Well, there were about 3 texts about the rifle and evading capture. One said attempting to go back and retrieve the rifle from where he had hidden it. He commented the police had locked down the area where near the rifle, and how he planned to approach if police moved on. He expressed worry about losing the weapon, said he had hoped to keep the killing secret, quote unquote, until he died of old age. In other texts, he told the roommate, he told him to delete incriminating messages. Here's where you get tampering with evidence, trying to cover up and obstruct justice. And he advised that if authorities question him, they should simply ask for a lawyer and stay quiet. Now, approximately, about 1 hour after the shooting, approximately that time, Robinson then asked somebody else in a private Discord group chat, of which he was a member, if they saw the news. One of the other members said that Robinson looked like the suspect image released by the FBI. And Robinson then said he, joked that he had somebody who was trying to frame him. And then he went on to say the group should give him a cut out of the FBI reward money for turning him in. He went on to say then, beyond that he would avoid going to McDonald's. Of course, that was a reference to Luigi Majani, who was arrested at McDonald's, remember, in Altoona, Pennsylvania, after he allegedly killed, United Healthcare Brian Thompson, CEO. And he also said he would get rid of his manifesto and rifle, just joking about it, basically. But then, later the same day, it gets a little more solemn. He's now texting to the people, "Hey guys, I have bad news for y'all. It was me at UVU yesterday. I'm sorry for all of this. I'm surrendering through a share friend in a few moments. Thanks for all the good times and laughs. You've been amazing. Thank you for everything." Now, a friend in that same Discord group wrote the next morning that the confession appeared to be true, and he called for prayers for both Robinson's repentance and for Kirk's family. And then, shortly after that, Discord suspended Robinson's account. Now, on September the 15th, the FBI then announced that Robinson's DNA matched that they found on a towel that was wrapped around the suspected rifle and on a screwdriver found on the roof from where the shot was fired. So now you're tying Robinson both to the rooftop where the shot was fired, and you're tying him by DNA to the rifle that he had hidden in the woods. So you see, we've got this evidence now putting him at the scene. We've got these texts where he's admitting that he did it. And now we still have people like Candace Owens and others, are trying to say that he did not do it. And they would rather believe that Israel did it, or the United States did it, or somebody else did it. But we do know something else, and here's a very, very important thing for me to say, that we're finding things now that we know that we did not know then. Early on in the case, we did know that it had been reported that Tyler's family, that his dad was affiliated with a local sheriff's department, that he was a member of the sheriff's department. Those reports were incorrect. We know now those were incorrect. His dad was not and has not been a part of the sheriff's department. However, the reports that his family was involved in Tyler turning himself in is very true. And according to charging documents and reporting from multiple news outlets, Tyler James Robison's family did urge him to turn himself into authorities after the alleged shooting. And their intervention was no doubt a key in bringing about his arrest. Here's what has been reported. After law enforcement released the images of the shooter, Robison's own mom saw a photo and believed it looked like her son. She then contacted him to ask where he was. Now, during a call afterwards, he did imply to his parents that he was the shooter, and then told them, according to these documents and these reports, that he was afraid of being shot by the police. And at first, he was very reluctant about turning himself in because he thought he would be shot. So then they encouraged him, their son, to speak with a trusted family friend who was a retired deputy sheriff. That person helped convince Tyler to surrender himself peacefully. And so on the evening of September the 11th, 2025, Robison went with his parents and the family friend to the Washington County Sheriff's Office and turned himself into authorities without incident. So, to summarize it up, his parents, after recognizing him in a released suspect photo and talking with him, they pressed him to turn himself in. They enlisted the help of a law enforcement friend, and they were a part of him voluntarily surrendering to the police. Now, I did mention that I would keep you up on the rants of Candace Owen, who, by the way, still does not believe that Charlie Kirk was shot by Tyler Robison. Now, she's even attempted to tie this whole thing, believe it or not, you can't make this up, into Liberty University and Jerry Falwell into her crazy conspiracies. No, I'm not making this up. This past week, she's taken a great deal of time to attack faith-based institutions in her rants about Charlie, especially implying that Charlie would not take payoffs as others, such as Falwell that she alleged, and now Turning Point USA and other people that she's alleging they're taking payouts from Israel and this sort of thing, and that Charlie would not take these payouts, so that's why a good reason why he perhaps was taken out. But it's a little strange that even though she does not believe that Tyler shot Charlie, she's come up with two other things about Tyler Robison. She said, number one, that he went to a Dairy Queen right after the shooting. And then some 100 or more miles away, that evening he went to a cowboy steakhouse and had a steak. And as part of her belief that Tyler could not have done the shooting, she mentioned that the steakhouse had receipts where Tyler paid for the steak with his credit card. That's what she says. And she then says, well, this proves that he did not shoot Charlie, because what person who was getting away from a shooting would actually allow themselves to be tracked with their credit card? Why wouldn't they just use cash? However, I got to tell you, folks, any seasoned investigator would tell you that being 100 or more miles away, eating a steak and paying with a credit card, that would bolster a fake alibi. Why wouldn't he use his credit card? He's 100 miles away. He's not tied to the event. Why wouldn't he use his credit card to place him more than 100 miles away at a steakhouse having a steak on the evening? What a great way to set up his alibi. Now, did he go to the Dairy Queen? Did he go to this cowboy steakhouse? I don't know. I can't say it as gospel because it is coming from Candace Owen, who also implies the French, Israel, U.S. military, U.S. intelligence, President Trump were all behind the shooting of Charlie Kirk. Well, Where he ate his food after the shooting really, my friend, has no bearing on the case unless he were to have that food in Africa or far around the world and place him there at the time of the shooting. And we know that just did not take place. All right, let's talk quickly about what we're going to look at next in this whole situation of the prosecution of Tyler Robinson. Well, there's another court hearing that's scheduled for January the 16th, just right around the corner. This hearing will include a discussion of the defense motion to disqualify the Utah County Attorney's Office from prosecuting the case. Now, that's a very significant pretrial motion. I have since heard that that motion will be denied, and it probably will be denied from all practical purposes. Then another one scheduled, and all this is subject to change, because you know when lawyers get involved and they file motions, dates change, but the preliminary hearing is actually scheduled on May the 18th to 2026. And on May the 18th, that's where the judge will evaluate whether the prosecutors have enough evidence to move forward to trial. That has been scheduled for the week of May the 18th, 2026. Now, it's important to realize this is a preliminary hearing. It's not a trial of guilt or innocence, but literally a legal step that's required in Utah's process before a jury trial can even be set. Now, it's worth noting, the defense could waive this hearing. In some cases, they do, but current filings pretty well suggest they'll probably proceed because they give them opportunity to look at more of the prosecution's case, in my opinion. Now, before the trial, also, both sides are now engaging and will continue to engage in several typical legal steps. There's discovery. Prosecutors must provide evidence witness lists to the defense. And because of, well, at this point, there were 3,000 people there, so there could be hundreds or thousands of witnesses given to the large crowd, that might take some time. Then there's going to be defense motions, which Robinson's lawyers have already filed motions on issues, including the limiting of media and cameras access to protect Robinson's right to a fair trial. Requests about the courtroom appearance, such as can he wear civilian clothing and the restraint protocol. You know, does he have these chains on him when he's there? And then, of course, the motion we just mentioned a moment ago about disqualifying the prosecutor's office. All these motions must be resolved before the court even moves to scheduling a trial. But keep in mind now, this is also a death penalty case, and there will be also, if this continues that way, a potential death penalty phase. Prosecutors have stated they intend to seek the death penalty because Robinson is charged with aggravated murder, among other counts. If the case proceeds to trial, and if he's found guilty, then Utah law then allows for a separate sentencing phase where the prosecution then can argue for capital punishment. Now, again, that phase would only occur after a guilty verdict. So there you have it. You should be up to date now, and you should know that the real suspect in this case is not Israel. It's not the United States government. It's not Donald Trump. It's not Jerry Falwell. It's not Liberty University. It's not the French government. It's not the French Foreign Legion. It's not a paramilitary group from the U.S. Intelligence Service. It is this young man who had a hatred of Charlie Kirk's message that he was sharing on campuses across the country and literally took him out. Until this time next time, when we'll be here once again with another Charlie Crimebuster episode, this is Charlie Crimebuster thanking you for being on board and reminding you, be safe, be alert, for the life you save, it may be your very own.
You have been listening to Charlie Crimebuster. We would like to thank our sponsor, the Peacemaker Network, and also encourage you to support the first responders, military, and law enforcement personnel by contributing to the Peacemaker Network. That's peacemakernetwork.com. All music and sound effects are courtesy of Pixabay.com. That's Pixabay.com. You can also support us by subscribing to our YouTube channel, tag @CharlieCrimebuster, and then click the subscribe button. By doing so, you'll be notified each time we drop one of our shows. Another more convenient way for you to listen to our podcasts, or for you to say to your smart speaker, play Charlie Crimebuster. If you have comments or suggestions, we would love to hear from you, so please send them to charliecrimebuster@gmail.com. That's charliecrimebuster@gmail.com, or you can call or text us at 407-917-2211. That's 407-917-2211. Thank you for listening, and we hope that you will join us again for another exciting crime episode with Charlie Crimebuster.